Perhaps it was only then that the visions came. But those who seemingly were more quick of vision often saw or heard almost immediately. And they lived and they accepted. Whatever they heard, that they did. There was no question, no debate, no self-interest to impose itself. Whatever was whispered to them out of the night, that they did, with their full heart and their complete confidence. One of the great medicine priests of the Ojibwe nation once described how he learned to be a healer. He admitted very definitely that this office of medicine chief was hereditary to a degree, but very often there was no one to carry it on. There was no schooling in it. Perhaps a young man observed the common remedies of his tribe, or watched a medicine priest at work, or learned some of the songs, or tried to copy some of the remedies, but there was no formal instruction. If you went out into the night and sat alone, when the time came for you to do the vigil of manhood, which was to tell you what you were to do with your life, you had to be guided by vision. No Indian would ever decide what his career is going to be, and nor would his relatives and friends. No one would say, my son is going to be a medicine priest, and perhaps do everything possible by conspiracy to make this possible. Such a thing was not done among these people. A young man went out. If he was a very thoughtful, quiet, mystic type of young man, it might be rumored among the tribe that he probably would be a priest. But this was only if the gods finally sanctioned. And when he went out and did his vigil alone, he waited for the Spirit to come and tell him. And if he beheld in his vigil the form of a thunderbird, if the thunderbird appeared to him with its great glistening eyes and its thundering wings, he knew then that he was ordained to be a priest, for he was under the wing of the great bird of heaven. If such was the case, then it was his task now to become a healer of his people. He couldn't go to school. There was no college, no American Medical Association, to which we all give thanks, and there was nothing of his kind to help him. He didn't even know one reed from another. All he knew was that heaven had intended that he become a healer. Therefore, it was heaven that must show him the way. And as this man explained to me, he began, and various people came to him, and they were sick, and the old medicine priest had died, and he had naturally become his successor. He had never studied with him, but he had respected him. And so a man came and said, I have a great pain in my side, what shall I do? Another one said, I have a tooth that hurts. The third says, I have an abscess. A fourth has broken his leg in a fall from a horse. Another one has been injured fighting a bear. Another has been stung by a serpent. All of these people come one after the other through the years. The sick, the old, the infant, the mother to bearing her child. Everything comes to the old medicine priest. And he has never been to school, and he's never had a lesson in anything. What can he do? As this one told me, there's only one thing you can do. Pray. Be silent. Hold out your hands to the sky and tell the sky to use them. We cannot use them. But he said, always when I pray, something comes. Always a voice seems to lead me. Always my eye turns to something. I am shown the way. So I go out and I look for an herb, and I cannot tell one herb from another. And he says, I sit there quietly looking over the land, and I say, Father, show me the herb that will bring health. And he says, as I watch, a light shines from that herb. Then I go and get it, and I make the medicine, and the person gets well. This was the beginning. This was the way, I think, that probably all arts and sciences began. a very primitive searching in which man, because he possessed a peculiar kind of consciousness, was able by degrees to reveal to himself and through himself to others the innumerable mysteries of life as these mysteries unfold. So the medicine priest received his initiation out alone in vigil. He received it every day as he labored. And he lived always in this great lodge of heaven itself. Schoolcraft, in his great work on the American Indian, describes how some of these medicine priests, in their visions, actually believed that they were able to leave their bodies and go to the great lodge in the sky where the old ones, the great rulers of the world, were, and that they might even be asked to sit in a humble place near to these wise ones and receive the great instruction. Now, if a priest, a medicine priest, was called out of his body and the great ones spoke to him, they told him the great magic. They told him the power to control the elements in the stars. They told him how to see at great distances. They told him how to travel invisibly from place to place. They told him all the secrets of the great magic of the great medicine lodge. This one then returned to his people a very high priest, invested with all miracles and wonders, and gained a great reputation. Now we might also say that this all sounds like a lot of gibberish, that anyone could pretend these things, but as my old Navajo friend, Hustine Clark, used to say, it isn't so easy to do that when you live in a community of 70 families for 70 years. Who are you going to fool? You can't fool everybody all the time. You can't make up stories that never amount to anything. You can't guess and always be right. And if anything goes wrong and somebody dies because you've made a bad guess, you can't move into another community and start over again. You start, you believe, you carry the whole burden. You must either prove yourself or be disproved. And you are living forever under the watchful eyes of people who never forget. They know what you have said. You can never take it back. They know what you have promised. You can never fail. And to be sufficiently successful to hold an honored and esteemed reputation in this little family of people that has no other doctor, no other lawyer, no other priest, no other confidence, to do this, and to do it without breaking the code, holding the personal respect and admiration as well as the professional respect of these people. You cannot just be a charlatan. You cannot just make up stories. You have to be right. If you say the buffalo are 3 days' journey to the north, the buffalo had better be there. If you say that this individual will get well, he had better get well. Maybe once in a while you can be wrong. Even the stars in the sky seem to make mistakes. But you cannot make too many. You must be right most of the time. So that whatever comes to these people comes as it does to in the mysteries and initiations of the Cherokee Indians, where there are many very interesting rites and ceremonies. But always these mysteries and initiations have to do with bridging across from one world to another. They are all man searching for that which some way in his own heart he knows exists. And that is a tremendous, living, spiritual force. This is the very source and substance of the mana and of the Orenda. Without these terms, without these beliefs, this great complex of people could not have carried on their growth through the centuries. They could not have followed faithfully in the ways of their fathers. They could not have learned the great arts that they knew, some of which we are trying to rescue before these people become extinct. or perhaps not because they die out physically, but because their culture dies out under the ridicule of stupid people. But actually, the old ways had something. And these old ways are deep and long. We have had our present beliefs for 500 years. We lived under the old ways perhaps for 5 million years. Down inside of each of us, the old way is still there. And it is this old way forever coming through that brings mysticism into focus in a materialistic age. It is this old way which is the reason why materialism is a mood, but it can never finally dominate it. Because within us is this contact inwardly with the universe. Now, we said in our discussion of the Greek mysteries that the great part of the mystery ritual was finally the communication of this inner spiritual reality. That man had to have a mystical experience by which he realized his victory over death. I think the same was exactly the case in the Western Hemisphere. That these mysteries, as practiced here, led, as in other regions, to the final state of conscious existence apart from body. Schoolcraft gives us another important reference, and of course he is the outstanding authority on North American Indians. He says that one of the functions of the medicine priest was to go with the dead into the other world. Here we are back in the Egyptian ritual of the dead. Therefore, when a person was dying in one of the Western tribes, the medicine priest was called in. And if according to his own insight and understanding the time had come for this soul to depart, he sat quietly in prayer or meditation beside the dying person, as the Tibetan Lama does in the ritual of the body. And when the death comes, the medicine priest goes into a trance. And according to the records that were preserved, the stories they told, this priest in trance leaves his body and stands beside the spirit of the deceased person. He then takes his hand very gently and with great kindliness and leads him through the night up a strange trail that is gray and mysterious, until finally it comes to a beautiful valley with a soft, radiant light. And here the Indian finds the village in the sky that is like the one he left behind. And here he is welcomed by those who went before him, and comes as an honored friend and guest into a new region of life. Schoolcraft also points out that many of these tribes believed in reincarnation. Among others that had this belief, by the way, were the primitive Indians of California. So, here we have the guide guiding the soul of the Egyptian dead through the mysteries leading to the Amentet. The Indian was not so sophisticated, therefore he did not have a judgment of the soul. The Indian took it for granted that he did the best he could. He took it for granted that he was neither better nor worse than the average. He did not believe that his God demanded perfection of a creature whom he had never taught. He did not believe that God required virtues that the human being had no opportunity to learn or no way of applying. The Indian lived naturally. His philosophy was very simple. He says, I will be honest. I will be honorable in my dealings with everyone. I will do good whenever I can. I will never turn 100